But do you remember back in 2015? In 2015, we had another example of the pro-white, and that's why I put this in the title. If I had more characters allowed, I would have put it in quotes, because this so-called pro-white movement, this merchant right, they're not pro-white at all, except for some of them in pretext. It is multiracial, anti-Jew, anti-black, and sometimes anti-Hispanic. That's what it is. Primarily anti-Jew. Jew spurgs of all races coming together. And over the years, exactly as I have predicted, there are more and more non-whites, content creators, merchant content creators leading the right wing against and with criticism against mainstream Jews and the Jew spurging. I saw the most cringy, I wish I had it, the most disgusting, the most cringing spectacle I have seen in, I don't know how many, more than a decade. Two white people, young white people in their 20s maybe. They're driving, I think they're in the UK. They're driving along, the guy's driving, and there's a guy and a girl, and they are LARPers of Nazism. They LARP as Nazis. So first of all, that's gay. That is Claudine gay. If you want to honor anybody that was good, that you felt was commendable or worthy of honor in the Third Reich, LARPing as them is not the way to do it. I mean, for the love of God. What do you think what would you think of somebody who was a Christian that walked around like in robes and barefoot and was washing everybody's feet, and they're like, I am Jesus, I'm Moses. What would you think about them? What would you think about somebody who is following some pagan religion and of European origin, and they go out there and they have like a battle axe, like this is Thor's axe? You would laugh your ass off. Same thing holds true for this. So first of all, they're cringy as all shit because they're LARPing as Nazis, as Third Reich members or whatever it is. They're both like emaciated and sickly looking, which is so true for so many of those people. But it gets 10 times or 100 times worse, because what are they listening to? A black nationalist rapper who engaged his 10-year-old cousin or 8-year-old cousin in homosexual incest over a period of 3 or 4 years when he was like 13, who then goes on to bed white women left and right, who goes on to creating a porno company that is going to be primarily featuring white women, who goes on to sells White Lives Matter shirts and gives proceeds to black nationalist endeavors, who goes on to having a conversation with one of the Jewish businessmen that he used to be able to do business with, where he's telling the Jewish businessman, hey, we'll sell the White Lives Matter shirts together and then we'll bring all the money in for us. They won't get it. Who then goes on to forcing his white wife to go naked in public at the red carpet awards in California, who then goes on to having tantrums about Jewish agents that he has to work with and pay them handsomely so he can be a multi-billionaire, which he was. He's not anymore. But he has his tantrums, loses all kinds of business, wealth destroyed, and now creates a rap where, and that's not allowed to be played anywhere. Talk about a total L, a total failure. Goes on, and in this song, to affront Jews because he's throwing a tantrum, not because he's actually a worshiper of Adolf Hitler or knows anything about Adolf Hitler, because he knows that saying Hitler offends Jews. That's it. He is an adult throwing a tantrum. And so he creates a song where he says, enter, Heil, and then the word over and over and over. And these two white losers are in their absolute junk of an automobile, Köhne, junk of an automobile. And every time the black nationalist, homosexual incesting, white woman screwing rapper says, enter, Heil, and then the name, these idiots are giving the Roman salute. This is where the white race is. 2015, the writing was already on the wall for this pro-white movement being multiracial, because pro-white to these people just means anti-Jew. Pro-white to them just means anti-black. We all know it's true. We all know it's true. Stop pretending. Open the closet door. That's what it is for the vast majority of these people walking around saying they care about whites. It's just because they hate Jews and they hate blacks. There isn't anything pro-white about it. And the ostracization of those who actually care about white people is evidence of that. 2015. Here were some of the charmers from 2015. Young woman, Lindsay Sovanara, is a neo-Nazi who was caught planning a mass. She will almost certainly have to live the rest of her life in cuffs and chains. Now, of course, so this Lauschen with the white boys who were sexually interested in her were the neo-Nazis. There she is. There's your neo-Nazi. She was calling for the murder, all kinds of, if you remember back in 2015, all kinds of Hitler, Waffen-SS imagery, Nazi flag imagery. Really, all that LARPing means now is that you're low-class scum. So here is your Asia. So these Aryan warriors, the two guys with her, they got themselves this Asian woman from Laos. Sounds like a nice place, doesn't it? And then, and isn't this interesting? Vice News. Vice, another one of those entities that people point to as CIA controlled, government operation, etc., is telling you all about the people they want you to follow, all about the people they want you to look to as the resistance to what's happening to white people. And here is this pimple-faced, hideous South Asian girl up in Canada, which is where this happened. A woman serving a life sentence. So this is years later, after she's serving her life sentence. What actually happened, though? I'll just fill you in. So summarize this. There were three of them, her and the two white Aryan fighters and warriors, Nazi warriors. And they were planning this mass shooting in Canada, and her and one of the other guys were caught and arrested, and the third guy, before he was caught, killed himself because he saw what was coming. He saw that the writing was on the wall. They were nabbed. Who knows if they were actually planning to carry out a mass rather than just talking tough. My guess would be that they were talking tough, because that's where it always goes in these circles. That's where it always goes. You can reclaim your family from anti-whiteism, and which people have done in this community triumphantly. This should be the news across the content creators who supposedly care about white well-being, not a peep about those successes. But people will reclaim their entire family from anti-whiteism, and these thug, low IQ scum will show up and say, you're not doing anything. You're not tough. You need to be talking about killing them. So, a woman serving a life sentence for a failed mass Halifax is alleged to have sent letters and artwork to an infamous neo-Nazi from prison calling for violence against, quote, the subhumans. Right out of these circles. What prevented the pro-white? I'm going to tell you, it's dead. It is dead. 2025, it's dead. There is no pro-white movement. There's a multiracial, anti-Jew, anti-black movement. Before the internet was robust enough to carry all this traffic, all of these non-white people, it was difficult for them to show up. It was difficult for them. The only ones that could show up and coincidentally ended up getting the money and therefore being the leaders of some of these so-called pro-white groups were Jews who were passably white. And you can look through the history. You can read it all for yourself. Maybe I'm wrong. You go ahead and have a look at the history, but I think you're going to find out what exactly I have seen over the past 3+ decades now. But now that ever since the internet became robust enough for people to be able to get online and LARP as whatever they want, whatever race they want, the pro-white movement died online. It is the merchant right. It is multiracial. And it is one of two vehicles, either conservatism, where they pretend that all of our victimization has nothing to do with our race, or the anti-non-white variety, which specifically is really just anti-Jew and anti-black. And these are the sorts of associations that come out of these infernal unions. Don't ever come to me again and tell me Jason ain't being pro-white enough. Jason's not for white people because he ain't over here in this multiracial cesspit of Jew spurging or black spurging. According to neo-Nazi James Mason, Lindsay Sovinara, 29, gifted Mason letters and drawings that he posted on a far-right blog known to Vice World News. In the post, Mason, who penned the terrorism manual Siege. How many of these people do we have to find out, especially working for Canadian and British and Australian intelligence? Here's the big joke. Here's the really big joke that's known under the covers for decades now, is that the American, like FBI and etc., and their undercover people have always been a joke. They've always been awkward. They always end up setting themselves off, and people know exactly who they are. But the Canadians, the Brits, and the Australian governments, they have very effective undercover neo-Nazi and similar type agents who work not only in those countries, but in the United States. And the United States knows. It benefits the United States. It benefits the anti-whites in the United States. Again, just my opinion. I'm just going off of 3 decades of experience, which, by the way, as a little, to diverge a little bit from what I'm talking about here, we're talking about wisdom. We're talking about experience. We're talking about intelligence, especially on Sunday. Yesterday, we were talking about that. All of our race for millennia have talked about getting our wisdom from one of 2 types of characters. And often they were intertwined in our tales. The wisdom, the intelligence, the guidance from people who old, wise, old men who have lived and fought and been in the trenches, and they've learned as a consequence. They learn, they know. And people who had contact with deities. And often these two characters were intertwined. Where did this knowledge come from? Well, it came from experience. The wise or the old, if they were shrewd or sagacious, intelligent over the course of their lives, they had things that they could share, perspectives that they could share, that they were able to accumulate over time and with their focus, maybe in their industry. If you wanted to know everything there is to know about animal husbandry, you went to some old man who lived up on the hill. And that's where we got the stories about the old wise man at the top of the mountain that you would go to visit. And you would sacrifice everything you had for the knowledge that he could bequeath to you, gifted to him from a lifetime of experience. You would go to the old man and you would say, I need to know about animal husbandry. I need to know about how to care for my livestock. I need to know about how to get the yield out of my livestock. You would go to him for that information. The modern era has turned that completely on its head. Nobody goes now to the wise. Nobody goes to the actual learned. Nobody goes to the professional who's been focused for a lifetime on addressing a problem, and they have decades under their belt. More importantly, successes under their belt. No, specifically in the socio-political sphere, if the average person wants knowledge, they want to have their opinion informed, they want to be au courant, who do they go to? The 20-somethings. The 20-something Eraviste. The 20-something new and upcoming. The 20-something on the internet. I would not get my advice from a 20-something if they were the last person to give advice on earth. And yet that's what everybody is showing up for. So the political opinions, socio-political opinions, prescriptions, diagnoses. What do we do next? Where is the next pretty little dilettante? Where can I immediately subscribe so that I can learn all the deep wisdom that this 22, 24, 26-year-old has accumulated over the course of her life? Where's the next Sarah Stock? Clearly a merchant on the right, if there ever was one. And that's where people are showing up. It's not the withered skin and tired hands and gray beard and hair of a lifetime of experience fighting in the trenches. It's not the demonstrations of victories, of successes in those trenches that matter. All that matters is that she got a pretty face, she got a little cleavage, or he's a twink in the basement. He's a goober, he's a dweeb, he's fat, he's moribund. He hasn't seen his penis since he was 10. And there he is. He's now 25. He's now 28. His opinions matter. His opinions have value. We have a sick race. We will never be a people again until we accept the reality as men and women of the West. And you can hate me for it all you want. I'm just the messenger. I'm just here delivering the message. And maybe that's from me and the others in the House of Swash. Maybe that message is coming from the Creator himself. Somebody's got to say it. You can hate that all you want. You can disagree all you want. You can say it's just the way it is all you want. But if you're going to say any of that, then don't you dare complain about the mass chaos. Don't you dare complain about what the Republican Party or the Democrat Party or the right-wingers or the left-wingers are doing or not doing now. Go fish. Just go wait for your oblivion. This is not for you. There is a real fight here. There are real successes on the battlefield. There is absolute, abject, squalid LARPing. Low-class whites everywhere you look. Merchants on the right everywhere you look. Paycocks lining up for the next Sarah Stock everywhere you look. Paycocks lining up for the next Nazi party that will inevitably fail after they feed from all the members, because the paycocks are just desperate to be able to play Nazi again and say what needs to happen at the end of the book. That's my 5 cents. Hate me all you want. Disagree with me all you want. That's a fact. And there ain't no escaping it. We share these things like this every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do it on my YouTube. I do it on my X. I do it all over the place. You need to follow me on Telegram. You need to follow me on every one of these platforms. You need to put as an alert on your cell phone that we go live for our Sunday gatherings, Church of the West, on Sundays, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am back on Wednesdays for a roll-in gathering, Church of the West, usually at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make it an alert in your phone. The anti-whites are deleting your follows. They are unsubscribing you. They are undermining all that we do, because you can hear from what I am saying and the passion that I wield here that the last folks that Vice is going to tell the world is the resistance to anti-whiteism is the House of Swash. The last community that Rolling Stone is going to tell you is the resistance to anti-whiteism. This community right here. I want to see you at these live streams. I am almost always there in the live chat. We can have a conversation person to person. You can hear and learn much more about what we do as real people in our lives. We're multifaceted, like every other normal white person out there. There are good non-white people in the community that object to anti-whiteism. They don't object to Jews. They don't object to blacks. They object to the victimization of white people. Those are the kind of non-white people you want to have around. And they will happily speak with you as well.